Today we are talking about something that most people never think about until it's too late. Portable value. What are the skills that pay anywhere? Not just in your current role, not just in your current city, not just in your current industry. Skills that travel with you. Skills that solve problems people pay for. Skills that are not trapped behind a single employer or a single border. Because the truth is, in this current volatile global economy, the only real job security is your ability to solve expensive problems. And if you don't know what problems you solve, you're not a value creator, you're a commodity. Today we are going to change that. What do you do for a living? Most people answer this with their job title. I'm a teacher, I'm a software engineer, I'm an accountant, a project manager, I'm a marketing coordinator, and so on. But that's not what you do. That's who you work for right now. You're defining your entire economic existence by a job title. That's the container your skills are currently in, and containers are temporary. The container can disappear, layoffs happen, restructuring, budget cuts, visas expire, companies close. The container is never guaranteed, but the value, the actual skills, the problems you can solve, those remain if you package them correctly. Welcome back to Future Foundations. Let's start with the diagnosis. Why do most people's skills feel stuck? Why do they feel like their value is tied to one specific company, one specific role, one specific place? There are 3 reasons, and they are all fixable. Reason number 1, your skills are contextual, not universal. Your skill is managing the CRM at company X using software Y. That's hyper-specific. If you go to another company that uses a different CRM, suddenly your expertise feels less valuable. If you try to freelance, you don't even know how to describe what you do without referencing the company. But look at it this way, the portable version of that skill is not I manage Salesforce. The portable version is I help businesses organize customer data to increase conversion rates. One is a task you perform, the other is a problem you solve. The second reason your value is dependent on institutional access. Your value only exists because you have access to the company's resources, their brand, their relationships, their infrastructure, their budget. Take that away and you're starting from zero. That's the trap most corporate employees fall into. They've been building equity in someone else's business for years, but they haven't been building equity in their own skill sets. They don't have a portfolio. They don't have testimonials. They don't have case studies they can point to because everything they've done was under the company's umbrella. Now, the third reason is that your skills have never been packaged. You've been working, you've been doing the work, you might even be excellent at it, but you've never documented it. You've never turned it into a process. You've never productized it. You've never created something deliverable that exists without your constant presence. You trade your time for value, but you've never created a system that delivers value without you. The foundation of any business or transaction is answering one simple question. What problem are you solving? If you don't know the problem you solve, you're just a commodity. You're replaceable. And like I said in a previous episode, you're competing on price and not value. So before we can talk about portable skills, we need to know what problem do you actually solve. Now let's deconstruct your job title, because your job title is not your value proposition. It's just admin. It's HR categorization. It means nothing to the market. The market doesn't care that you're a senior marketing analyst. Rather, the market cares that you're a pattern recognition expert who finds hidden value in customer data. Let me give you some concrete examples. And as I go through this, I want you to think about your own role. What's the outcome your work creates, not the task you perform. I'm talking about the results people are actually paying for. So the first example, let's say you're a project manager. You help teams ship complex projects on time without chaos. That's the problem you're solving. Chaos, missed deadlines, disorganized teams. That problem exists in every industry. Tech, construction, events, film production, non-profits, everywhere. So you're an HR coordinator. You help companies onboard people faster with less hand-holding. That's the problem. Slow onboarding, high early turnover. New employees who don't know what they are doing for the first 3 months. And that problem is universal. Say you're a graphic designer. You help businesses communicate their value visually so that people can actually pay attention. That problem, the bad design, unclear messaging, brands that look amateur, that's that problem doesn't care what industry you're in. A data analyst, for example, your job is to turn messy data into clear decisions. That's it. That's what people pay you for. Not dashboards, not pivot tables. They pay you for clarity, confidence in decision making. So let's do a little exercise. Take your job title and throw it away. Now answer this. What's the outcome your work creates? What problem will go unsolved if you weren't there? That's your value. And once you can articulate that clearly, you're no longer competing with everyone who has the same job title. You're competing on the problem you solve. Remember, I talked about the Me Too trap. The market is saturated with Me Too businesses and Me Too employees. I do graphic designing too. I do consulting too. If you tell me I do graphic design or I supply stationery or I have an events company, I consider them as Me Too businesses. That's not positioning. You're simply blending in. You have to find a specific problem in the chain, in the value chain to solve, not just replicating what everyone else is doing, because if you don't, you'll always be fighting for scraps. Now that we know how to translate a job title into a value proposition, let's try to figure out what you're actually working with. What skills do you have right now that are already portable? And what would you need to shift to make them more marketable? This is a 4-step process with simple practical steps. Step 1, list what you actually do. Forget your job title. List the actual activities. What do you spend your time on? What problems do you solve on a daily basis? What outputs do you create? Don't say, I manage people. Say, I help underperforming teams get back on track. Don't say, I handle customer complaints. You can say, I turn angry customers into repeat buyers. All right? Now, the second, translate to universal problems. Take each activity and ask, what's the underlying problem this solves? For example, I manage sales pipelines. That becomes, I help businesses track and convert leads. I train new employees becomes, I help organizations onboard people faster. I fix broken processes becomes, I help companies operate more efficiently. Do you see the difference? You're moving from internal tasks to external value. Number 3, identify what's transferable. Now ask, which of these problems exist outside my current company? Which of these exists globally? If the problem is universal, the skill is portable. If the problem only exists in your specific company with your specific systems, that's a red flag. That skill is trapped. Then the 4th one, spot the gaps. What's missing? What would you need to learn to package differently to make this skill truly portable? Maybe you're great at solving the problem, but you've never documented your process. Maybe you have the hard skill, but not the communication skill. Maybe you have the expertise, but no portfolio to prove it. Spotting the gaps tells you where exactly to focus next. And here's what most people are likely to discover when they do this process. You already have 60 to 70% of a portable skill set, but you haven't framed it just yet. You haven't framed it correctly. You haven't thought about it as something sellable outside your current role. The value is there, but it just needs to be repackaged. Now let's talk about what actually makes skills portable, because not all skills are created equal. Some get you in the door, some get you promoted, and some make you irreplaceable. And to escape the Me Too trap, we built a portable skills stack. You need 3 layers to your foundation. And if you can build all 3 layers, you're not just employable, you become invaluable. The first is the hard skill. That's the foundation. This is your entry ticket. This includes the technical skills, teachable, measurable skills like coding, writing, data analysis, video editing, design, accounting, project management, and what have you. This is what gets you in the door. This is what gets listed on your resume. This is what you were hired to do. But the thing is, everyone at your level has this skill. If you're a mid-level software developer, there are thousands of other mid-level software developers with the same technical ability. The hard skill alone doesn't differentiate you and can easily be replaced by artificial intelligence or cheap labor overseas. Secondly, we have the soft skill. This involves skills like communication, sales and negotiation, presentation, leadership. It's the ability to look someone in the eye and articulate why your hard skills really matter. The ability to explain complex ideas in a simple manner, the ability to sell an idea, ability to manage conflicts, ability to influence without authority. This is what gets you promoted or hired at premium rates, because most people with hard skills cannot communicate effectively. They can do the work, but they can't explain why it matters. They can build the thing, but they can't sell that thing. Soft skills are the multiplier. A developer who can explain technical concepts to non-technical executives is 10 times more valuable than another developer who cannot communicate value to a stakeholder. There's a simple communication framework which I recommend, the 3-2-1 method. 3 points maximum per conversation, 2 examples per point, 1 clear action item. That's it. And most people ramble, they lose the thread. They overwhelm with details. If you can distill your ideas into 3 clear points, back them up with examples, and land on 1 actionable next step, you've just separated yourself from 90% of your peers, 90% of the people with the same job title. And lastly, we have the meta skills, and this is a differentiator. This is adaptability, problem solving, pattern recognition, learning speed, the ability to enter a new industry and understand it in 30 days, the ability to spot patterns that others commonly miss, the ability to learn new tools faster than your peers. This is what makes you irreplaceable. And this is what makes your value truly portable, because hard skills become outdated, software changes, industries shift. What's in demand today might not be in demand in 5 years. But if you have meta skills, if you can learn, adapt, and solve problems in any context, you can easily sail through. Most people only have the first one. They could be technically competent, but cannot communicate or adapt. Having all 3 makes you a very rare person. You're not just a designer, you're a designer who can communicate strategy to executives and adapt to any industry in weeks. That's a completely different kind of positioning. Okay, so let's say you know what problem you solve, you know what skills you have. Now the question is, how do you actually package and sell these? Because having a skill and having an offer are 2 different things. A skill is something you can do, an offer is something someone pays you for. There are 3 levels of packaging, and most people should start at level 1, prove it works, then move to level 2, and eventually level 3 if they want to. So level 1 is service. You do the work. This is freelancing, consulting, contract work. You trade your time and expertise for money. The advantage here is that it brings immediate income. There's clear value exchange. You can start even tomorrow. But the disadvantage, you're still trading time. There's a ceiling on how much you can earn because you can only work a certain number of hours. But this is where most people should start because it proves market demand. It gives you testimonials. It teaches you how to price, how to deliver, how to communicate value. The second level is the product level. Done once, sold many times. This is templates, courses, guides, frameworks, tools. You create it once and then sell it repeatedly. The advantage is that you have leverage, passive income potential. Your time becomes disconnected from your revenue. But then it requires upfront investment. It requires marketing skill. It requires patience because it takes time to build momentum. And most people should move here once they've proven that their service works. You've solved the same problem for 10 clients. Now document that solution and sell it as a product. The third level is systems. Others do the work and you own the system. This is an agency, a platform, a productized service with a team. You've built a machine that delivers value without you being the one doing the work. Now the advantage here is that you have true leverage because you're building equity in something that can eventually run without you. But then it's complex. It requires capital still. It requires management skills. This is the long game. You don't start here. You build towards this. Now, regardless of which level you're at, pricing is where most people fail. Once you have this portable value, the biggest mistake you can make is pricing yourself based on your time instead of the cost of the problem. And Vosi teaches this in a very brilliant way in one of his master classes. He says, never talk price, always talk value. Price is the conversation people have absent of value. The minute someone mentions price, it means you've commoditized what you do. Here's a scenario. You charge $1,000 for a service, but the client's budget is $600. In this situation, most people are tempted to negotiate down. That's a mistake. Don't anchor the conversation to what your time is worth. Anchor it to what their problem is costing them. So instead of saying, I charge $1,000 because that's my rate, you say, this problem is costing you $10,000 a month in lost revenue, and my $1,000 solution solves the problem permanently. That's a 12 times return in the first month alone. When you anchor to the problem's cost, not your time, you see that premium pricing becomes logical. No need to be defensive. You're showing your clients You're showing them your value, your actual value, and not just valuing your time. If you are competing on price, you haven't made the value clear enough. Price resistance means unclear value proposition. Now, because theory is useful but examples are better, I would like us to make this a little bit tangible. I want to highlight 3 personas, 3 people who took a skill embedded in a job and turned it into portable value. The first is the corporate trainer who became a course creator. She worked in HR doing employee training, soft skills, communication, leadership. She was good at it, no doubt, but it only existed within the company. Then she realized that the skill she had wasn't just training employees at that company, the skill was teaching professionals how to communicate more effectively. That problem exists everywhere, of course. So what she did, she started documenting her training modules. She turned them into online courses, and now she earns from anywhere. The company didn't own the skills, she did. Look at a project manager who became an operations consultant. He managed projects in a tech company, timelines, deliverables, coordinating teams. The job was fine, but he realized the skill was bigger than the job. What he was really doing was helping teams to ship on time without chaos. That's the problem every growing company has. He started offering his services as consulting, retainer-based. Now he works with 5 clients at once, makes more than he did as a full-time employee, and works even remotely also. Then we have the designer who became a brand strategist. She did graphic design for a marketing team, logos, social graphics, presentations, standard design work. But she started noticing a pattern. Most companies didn't need a designer. They needed someone to help them figure out what they were actually trying to say. That's brand messaging. The design part was just the execution. So she had to reposition herself. She's not a graphic designer anymore, but she's a brand strategist who helps companies communicate their value visually. Different problem, different pricing, same core skills. So now you see the pattern. Each person took a skill embedded in a job, identified the universal problem it solved, and repackaged it for a broader market. That's the move. Skill, problem, market, and packaging. If you've built a world-class skill, but that skill lives entirely inside your head, it dies with you. It cannot be sold, it cannot be scaled, and it cannot be inherited. Before we close, I want to touch on 2 things, documentation and leverage. I use the example of Sharan Srivatsa, who talks about what he calls the learning dogma, and it's one of the most important principles for turning skills into legacy assets. So he says, when you discover something, you learn it once, but when you teach something, you learn it twice. When you document something, you learn it forever. Don't just have skills, document them. If you want your skills to create true impact, you must document your frameworks, write down your process, create templates, build systems around what you already know, because documented skills become teachable, they become sellable, they become scalable, they work without you, and they outlive your active involvement. So we are shifting from I'm good at this thing to I have a documented, repeatable system for solving this problem. You must create a recipe for your success. That's how you step out of daily operations, and that is how you hand over a fully functional machine to the next generation or to a buyer, instead of just handing them a stressful job. And here's the natural outcome of portable skills. Your geography becomes a choice, not a constraint. When your skills are portable, you can even earn in strong currencies while living on your own terms. You can work remotely if life demands it. You can relocate if you need to. You can stay if you want to. It's about becoming a digital nomad. It's about having options, the ability to move, the ability to stay, the ability to design your life around what matters instead of being trapped by where the jobs are. Portable skills equal portable life. Stop relying on your title, start building your value. Once you realize that your abilities are desperately needed in fields you haven't even considered, you'll never feel trapped by a job, or by a boss, or by a border ever again. Right now, I would like you to spend the next week researching. What does that market look like? What are people charging? How are they packaging similar skills? What platforms are they using? Just do a kind of reconnaissance. You're not launching anything yet. We are actually just learning. Next week, we'll discuss side hustles and side businesses. And I'd like to talk about the difference between having extra cash and having a second income engine. This is Future Foundations. Keep building, and I'll see you in the next one.